Hey Amarillo, I'm Skylar Gallup, and you are listening to Hey Amarillo, the interview podcast featuring some of the most interesting people and stories of Amarillo, Texas. We record every week at Amarillo College's Innovation Outpost. The I.O. supports education, workforce development, and industry growth by inspiring and facilitating innovation in the Texas Panhandle. Today's guest is Bethany Fields. Bethany is an artist, a highly accomplished and celebrated pastel artist, to be specific. But her story goes through several different platforms, mediums, and hobbies she turned into jobs. From working on stages to snapping photos through lenses, she found her way to pastels with a few wonky but very cool stop-offs along the way that I think you'll find fun. Bethany shares what motivates her to create, when and how it's been an outlet for her, as well as her beautiful perspective on our area and its landscapes and the abundance, in fact, rather than scarcity she sees in it. Here's Bethany. Bethany Fields, welcome to the Hey Amarillo podcast.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Happy to chat with you.
Yes, I'm excited.
Wonderful. Okay, so we'll start with the beginning. Where are you from?
I was born in Canyon and have lived here almost my entire life. Lived in Amarillo all through high school, moved away for a few years, lived in Lubbock, went to Texas Tech, go Red Raiders, and then moved
It's a tough time.
Yeah, well, you know. Hey, basketball is doing great.
Yeah.
And then moved to Boston, actually, and lived in Boston for several years before coming back home to raise my family.
Wonderful. All right, let's unpack some of that.
Yes.
What'd you study at Tech?
I studied theater. I'm actually have a theater acting and directing background, which has kind of informed a lot of my life in many aspects. And so I've performed on the ALT stage many times. I've been in Texas, the musical drama, out at the Canyon for many years in college. Performed in Burbank, California on some shows out there. And that kind of led to what I've been doing for the past several years, which is having a YouTube channel for my art and also working on Patreon and just being an online teacher.
Wonderful. What gave you the art bug? Were you like born with it? Were your parents?
I definitely was born with it.
Cool.
My grandparents especially were very supportive of creativity in many aspects, and so were my parents. I was given lessons in piano and in twirling and in dance. I kind of went my own direction, definitely, in many aspects. I wasn't necessarily super academic, but I was very versatile in being influenced by many different things. I never actually considered myself an artist. I always considered myself more crafty and a performer. I really, really wanted to perform, mostly growing up. But then once I started having a family, that kind of changed into what could be sustainable to where I could still be a really, really present mother and also tickle that creative part of me.
That I think reminds me so much of the importance of like stewarding our children through their interests, you know, and,
Yes.
and making those things as much as we can available to them. It pays off.
Yes, it does.
So was your plan coming out of Tech to go be a professional actor?
Yes, absolutely. But I...
Yeah, what'd you do with that?
I had a baby. And so I had my precious
That
oldest
happens,
son.
doesn't it?
Yes, it does. And my desire to be on stage, and I couldn't bear to imagine being away from him and from my sweet, adoring husband. We've been married for 25 years this year.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. And so I knew I needed some kind of creative outlet. So I've kind of done a tapestry of different things. After this is when we were living in Boston. I was a stay-at-home mom. We lived in a tiny little attic apartment, 400 square feet.
Oh, gosh. That is a tiny apartment.
It was very small. And I was so lucky to be able to stay at home. A lot of people thought I was his nanny because I was fairly young. A lot of people up in the Northeast, they don't have children in their early
Sure.
20s like we do around here in Texas. You know, people tend to have children a little earlier down here than they do up
Yeah.
there. But
Now, were y'all in Boston for his work?
Yes,
Cool.
we were in Boston for my husband's work. He worked for New England Financial in Copley Square. We were there during 9/11, all of that. But I really became interested in photography, actually, because I wanted to capture all of the growing steps that my son was going through. And so I really became enamored in scrapbooking and in capturing memories for myself and for, him, for him to someday see.
Yeah.
And then we lived there for several years. We moved home to Texas because we realized we wanted to be around grandparents. We wanted to have a home and a yard and
Right.
have a dog and not have to just live in apartments for the rest of our lives, because in Boston it is so expensive.
Is his family from here as well?
Yes,
Nice.
my husband's family is from Lubbock.
Okay.
And so we moved home, and I kept on that path of really pursuing photography, which I did professionally for quite a few years, doing commercial photography, weddings, babies, seniors. I love to take children's pictures, of course. And that's how I started off with my son. And then I also was very invested in creative aspects of scrapbooking. And I actually worked in Burbank for a scrapbooking TV show, doing a DIY on how to do that. And this is 20 years ago. So it was kind of right on the cusp of when the internet was starting to have shows, basically. And so I did that. I would fly to Burbank and I would be on air. And since I had a theater background, I was very comfortable in front of the camera. I got a lot of experience in front of the camera being an on-air talent for this company in Burbank. So that was really, really impactful for my education on lots of different things to do with media.
Yeah, that sounds so unique and fun.
Yeah, it was.
So what was the
fun.
show on?
It was on the internet. It was crafttvweekly.com. I don't think it even exists anymore. And I was the host of this show. And so I would go and I would show people how to scrapbook. I mean, that's when it was a really big. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but it was a big.
How did you even get connected to that?
I auditioned. Actually, my really good friend Mickey, was the producer and the company owner, and he put out a call for auditions. And I had been published in magazines for some of these scrapbooking pages.
I love this.
And I had developed quite a bit of friendship through the community and the nationwide, because I was in quite a few magazines for my art, basically the art of how I did these memory pages, basically. And
I'm trying to imagine what a really, really, really excellent scrapbook looks like.
Well, it was a big deal in some very small circles way, way back then. But I had met several people that knew I was also an actress.
Yeah.
And so when they saw the call, they said, Bethany, this is you. You have to do this. And so I set up a video in my kitchen and I filmed it and I sent it off and they hired me.
That's so fun.
Yeah.
I love that.
So I flew to California many times to do that.
Neat.
Yeah.
Cool.
I know that's so random, but it was a very niche period of my life.
Yeah, that's really cool. What did you do after that?
After that, I came home. I had 2 more kids, kept raising them.
Were y'all in Lubbock or Amarillo?
We were in Amarillo at this
so y'all
point.
came from Boston back to Amarillo.
Yes, we came back to Amarillo.
Cool.
Settled down, didn't think we were necessarily going to stay here. And of course, here we still are. But we really just developed a community. Of course, I have a lot of friends from this area that I had in high school and in college. And so we have friends that our kids have grown up with. And it's, we've just developed this little community for ourselves. But after the scrapbooking period, it kind of just fizzled out, I would say.
Okay.
I really was leaning more on photography. I loved doing that. And so that's really what I did for so long until I didn't, until I decided that was probably, I would say, 10 years ago. I kind of retired from photography for the most part. I decided I really wanted to be creative on my own instead of being more guided by
the kind of pictures people want you to take of them?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Sure. That makes sense.
I decided I really wanted to be creative on my own. And actually what I had been on Etsy, which was, all handmade, crafty things. I thought I was very crafty. And I bought a painting a pastel painting off of Etsy, and it was from an artist in Israel. And it was of a little girl and her mother and a birthday cake, and it was just so beautiful. And it reminded me of my daughter because she was very young at the time. And I was immediately taken by the quality of this medium, this pastel, the soft pastel, which a lot of people don't know what it is. I didn't know what it really was when I first started. A lot of people think it's chalk, but
it's like the little crayon looking things, right?
It's actually pure pigment. And so if you crushed it up and added oil, it would be oil paint. And so it's not chalk. Chalk is usually a dyed limestone. And so it's not nearly as vibrant. Pastel is technically the most archival, probably the most ancient medium. When people look at cave drawings, they're looking at pastel because those people took up a piece of raw ochre and drew on the cave wall. That is pastel. And so I quickly became very enamored. I absolutely loved it. This was before you really had YouTube channels that you could watch about how to do it, or how do you apply this pigment to paper, all of the different aspects of learning. And so I found a message board, which was a big thing way back then, you know. And I quickly learned about the different types of pastel and the different brands that there are, which there are many, many, the different papers that you can use. And I am really immersed myself. When I'm interested in something, I tend to go all in. Like that's the only thing. I'm kind of obsessive about learning. I love to learn. And I loved it, but I had these young little children. It was messy. It's not necessarily something that you want your kids to get into because it can have some harmful chemicals in it. And so I just decided while they were very young, I wanted to put it away. And so I packed it up in the little box and I put it in my closet, and I decided for another day, I'll do that someday. I'll really focus someday. Right now, I just really wanted to focus on my kids. So that about, 7 years went by, 10 years maybe.
Now, was there a hobby in there that you fixated on? Or it was like
not necessarily.
Mostly
kid raising. Mostly kid raising. Three little kids. 2 boys. And
I didn't know if you picked up basket weaving.
Oh well,
hosted a show about it.
I love to crochet. There's all kinds of things. I could talk really about fun. a lot of different things.
Well, I think it's already very clear that you are a creator.
Yes,
right?
I am. Definitely. And so about in 2014, that summer, we had moved into a new home in Wolflin, and I love that neighborhood. And it was just, everything about it is artistic, the old architecture. But I remembered I have those pastels in the closet. And it was kind of in a time that I needed an outlet to kind of get some stress out of myself. Having young children and a family and growing, and a stay-at-home mom, it can be challenging to make time for yourself. And so I pulled those pastels out of the closet, and the good thing about them is that they don't degrade. They're going to stay the same if in 100 years somebody found my pastels, they would be the same that they are now. It's unlike a tube of paint that will dry out. They're pure pigment, and so they're going to last. So I pulled them out. They were as good as new. And I started painting a tiny little piece every single day. And it took me half an hour. And I would sit on the floor in my guest bedroom, and I would tape my paper to a piece of cardboard. And the only thing I had to worry about was which color do I need to pick next. I didn't have to worry about kids or finances or whatever else was going on that was stressful in my life. I just had to pick the color, and that was so peaceful to me. And I just never quit. And I converted that guest bedroom into a studio. I painted larger and larger pieces. I used to paint in those early days just little 4x4 inches or 5x5s, really, really small. Then I grew to do more standard sizes, 8x10s, and then 9x12s, and 11x14s, different sizes, mostly focusing on the landscape of our area, the Llano Estacado, but also some of those beautiful memories of living in Boston, trees and water, which, of course, we don't have as much of. I just knew that that was what I really wanted to do. So I really put down my camera. I still use it every now and then. I take photos for ALT shows and take headshots for the WT dance department and the theater department every year, and that's been really great. So I still get to use some of those skills. I love to be around people in that aspect because art is a little lonely. You're creating on your own and in your own head. Until I started teaching, which just kind of organically grew from my own practice, I was pretty, it's solitary. It's a very solitary job to have.
You mentioned kind of learning a bit on the message boards. Did you train in any formal way in your pastel artistry?
No, I didn't.
Or you
I read a lot of books.
Okay.
I read a lot of books. Of course, I found some artists that I really admired.
Yeah.
That were pastelists, as we call ourselves.
Thank you.
And of course, I studied their work. But really, and this is what I've told my students for years and years, you can't learn unless you do. So you have to learn. You can't learn how to paint by looking at a book. You have to actually do it. And so it's taken years and years. I've painted thousands of pieces. From there, I eventually there was YouTube, and there were some people on YouTube that were showing how they do pastel.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I can do that.
You've kind of done some, right?
I went to Burbank and I did all of this stuff, this online, presence. And so I developed a YouTube channel, which has grown. From there, I started working on a website called Patreon, which is a subscription-based kind of almost like Netflix for different things. You can subscribe to people and you get their content. Mm-hmm. And so I've produced hundreds of painting how-to videos, blog posts, have hundreds and hundreds of students around the world. And so it's just been really a blessing to me.
That's very interesting. How does one, or I guess how did you, move from a hobby to an income?
Well,
how does that happen?
That's the thing about me is that I tend to make my hobbies my jobs. I want to support my habit in a way. If I'm going to take time away from my family and do this thing that in pastels, it's kind of an expensive hobby or a craft, because instead of, let's say, when you're an oil painter, when you are a watercolor or an acrylic artist, you can mix colors on a palette. With pastel, you have to have every single color you want to use in a separate form, because you can't mix the color like you can in a wet medium.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Some of brands are very inexpensive. You can get a stick of pastel for $1, $1.50. Some of them are $20 each. The most expensive brand is a French-made brand. That full set probably costs $38,000.
Jeez, Louise.
Yes, and so
that's plenty.
Yeah, it's a lot. It kind of happened to where I knew that selling my artwork, I was selling pretty consistently, but inconsistently, if that makes sense. I couldn't guarantee how many pieces I would sell a month, but I knew if I started teaching and having subscribers, then I could have more of a steady income for my family.
Can bank on it, yeah.
Yes. And so it kind of grew from that, just the need to support my family. I knew I didn't want to just go get some regular job. I wanted to have a creative outlet and creative career. And so that's what I did.
So how did you know you were good? I'm thinking about you sitting on the floor, just kind of like getting away from, the heaviness of parenting. And was it like, I'm pretty good at this? Or did somebody tell you? How, you know what I mean?
Well,
I think that's very interesting.
Actually, I joined there are different pastel societies around the country. There's lots of different art organizations. We have one here locally called the Lone Star Pastel Society. And I joined that. I don't even know what year this was. They had meetings at the Amarillo Art Institute years and years ago. They have shows. They have exhibits where you hang your work, you enter your painting in a show. And so that was the first time that I was seen you hang your art with other artists in a gallery.
People come
And
look at
people bought it. And
Nice.
they started being encouraged to enter what are called juried shows, which a juried show is when a gallery, an organization have a judge basically that you enter a piece or you enter 3 pieces and they either accept you or don't based on the qualifications, whether they think that it is good enough to be in the show.
Okay.
And I was quickly in many, many jury shows. I
Okay.
was accepted into many jury shows, and so I was winning awards and just getting a little attention for it.
Yeah.
My Instagram, I post a lot on my Instagram of the work that I've done, my behind the scenes process. And so that was also getting attention. And so in that world, I thought, maybe I have a place here that I can just have a place in this world.
Be successful and create.
Yes.
I would love to tell you about Ingenic Dental Studio here in town. Dr. Jake Motery is my family's dentist, and he and his staff give us just the best family dental experience. But his practice and expertise go so much further than my kids' cavities and my routine cleanings. Dr. Motery specializes in cosmetic and implant dentistry. I've seen some of the work he's done, and it is just gorgeous. It's nothing over the top, very natural looking, but with results that really change a person's whole look. So if you're looking for family or personal dental care, or for a more aesthetically enhancing experience, check out Ingenic Dental Studio online or at their location on Georgia next to Market Street and Steak Express. So what year, let's timestamp it, like what year did kind of like things start? When did you get picked for the juried shows,
I'd
right?
probably say 2016,
Okay,
which
cool.
was only 2 years after I really started really full-time trying to paint.
Okay.
Which isn't very long in art terms. Once you're in some organizations, there's an organization in New York called Pastel Society of America, which is the oldest pastel society in the country. I was juried in as a signature of their society, which means whenever I am in a show, I can put the initials PSA behind my name.
Okay.
So with your signature, that society has basically anointed you. Like
Right.
you can represent us.
Yeah, congratulations. That's
Thank
really
you.
cool.
So I got that fairly quickly. And then there's some other organizations called the International Association of Pastel Societies. And that's an international. So that's a kind of the mother society for societies that are in New Zealand or China or Russia or England, lots of different places. And I'm an eminent pastelist for that society, which means I've been awarded a certain amount of points. It's pretty rare, and so I'm really excited about that. I'll actually get my medal for that next summer at their convention.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and then now I'm also on the board of governors for the Pastel Society of America, which is in Gramercy Park in Manhattan. And I just dreamed about even being the signature, and now I'm on their board of governors. And so it's been a real blessing and a really important part of my life.
I imagine it's quite meaningful to, have like found this medium and now be a part of the governing bodies that are like stewards of it.
Yes, it absolutely is. And I am very hopeful to grow what the knowledge is of what pastel is. I have a new studio up at the Amarillo Art Institute. I've always had a home studio, and I've worked outside of that same guest bedroom for years and years and years. And this past year, I kind of had a difficult year. And after that difficult year, I decided it was time for me to kind of get out into the community a little bit more because I'm a people person. I obviously don't have a hard time talking. I love to be around people. And in August of this last year, I opened up a little studio at the Art Institute. And it is so wonderful to be able to educate people when they're curious about what it is. Because in the East Coast, on the West Coast, pastel is much more, it's a bigger deal. Here, we have a pragmatic city. Our city is very
Yes, we
practical.
do.
And a lot of people don't know. They just simply don't know. And so I get the opportunity to teach them, no, this is not chalk. This is so much more special. This is the most archival medium out there. If this pigment is on a paper that is archival, it will last many, many lifetimes. There's nothing in it to degrade or yellow over time like oil. And so it's just really special.
That's neat to get to share it with the
It
community
is,
that,
it is.
yeah, that may not just immediately have an appreciation. Explain to me what you mean when it's a true pigment. Like, I just think of pigment as color, but I guess my brain has never considered like what it actually is.
Well, pigment is like crushed up rocks. It's basically a mineral. So you think of like when we go out to the canyon, Powder Canyon, and we see that beautiful dark clay earth.
Yeah.
That is pigment. And so you can get different pigments from different things. One of the only pigments that is not natural or is very, very difficult is blue, because there's not a lot of blue things that you can crush up to make very beautiful blue.
Okay.
Art history for you. Whenever you see a painting like the Madonna painted, and she has a beautiful blue like veil.
Okay.
That blue was more valuable than gold because it is literally, it was at the time, crushed up lapis lazuli, which is only from one mountain range in Afghanistan. And so it was very, very rare. And that's why they reserved it to paint the Madonna. And so now blues are they're more chemically created in a lab. But there's cadmiums, there's all different kinds of pigments. And if I was more of a scientist, I would know them, but I am not.
You're an artist.
I'm an artist.
You let the scientists make the colors.
My middle son is a scientist, but I'm more of an artist, and I just, I go with the flow.
So yeah, that's very cool to consider that when you're looking at, I guess maybe we would have to say like a very old pastel.
Yes.
You're looking at like literally of the earth.
Yes.
That's cool. I dig that.
And a lot of times it was used, we think of very famous artists, Monet, Degas, Renoir, a lot of the, the very old masters that we talk about, a lot of them used it as a form of sketching. They would go out and do plein air painting, which plein air means it's a French term for out in the open or in the open air. So if you see somebody with an easel standing in a park and painting, they're painting in plein air. And so a lot of times those old masters would go out and sketch. They would sketch the scene in pastel. They would come back to the studio, and then they would redo that painting in oil. Degas is probably the father of pastel, and he kind of went past that and would just do finished pastels, like beautiful big. He's the one that's famous for painting ballerinas. People have probably are more familiar with. It is, it's fantastic, and not a lot of people know about it. And so it's exciting to, we have a growing, and Lone Star Pastel Society is kind of re-engaging in the community. I think we're going to have an upcoming show in February at the Art Institute. I'm probably going to teach soon up at the Art Institute. I've kind of decided to pull back from Patreon. I actually just decided this recently due to some health challenges that I've had in the past year. It's just become something that I need to kind of shift my focus into, not necessarily content creation for the algorithm, but more doing things that are healthy for me to do. And so, but it's an exciting time.
Yeah, talk about the Art Institute. That's something that I think surprises people that don't live in Amarillo, but for those of us who do, we are all very, very aware that we've got this unique, really robust art community in town. And then, then the Art Institute came in and is just like killing it with creating community and space and opportunity. So yeah, talk about kind of being a part of that.
It is so.
It's remarkable.
It's wonderful. I get, every time I walk in that building, it's just like I get this rush of peace. To me, I feel like there is just this huge swell of creativity out of that building. Yeah. There are so many things that are going on there. There's glass blowing, there's clay works, there's weaving, there's every kind of painting that you could imagine. There's sculpture. There is, people that do beautiful, what is it called? When you print the plastic, what is it called?
Print the plastic.
3D printing. That's what I'm thinking.
There we go. Print the plastic. I love that.
Print the plastic. 3D printing.
No, you're absolutely correct in that there is everything
so much
out there.
And you can go out there, you can observe, you can participate.
Yeah, you take classes for
you can
adults
take classes.
and kids.
Yes.
I did like a board retreat for a board one time.
There's
so
music
fun.
events out there. There's weddings that take place. You can rent the facility in different aspects. There's so much. We have First Friday, of course, every Friday. The first Friday of every month is a big, everybody come out. Most of the studios are open, family friendly.
Yeah.
There's food trucks, there's popcorn vendors, there's a gift shop. There's tons of things to do. And it is so much fun to see people, to engage in the community. It is for the community. We are there for you. And so we want people to come out and participate.
I'm struck by thinking about a moment ago, you kind of verbalized really well that being an artist can sometimes be like very isolating. Mm-hmm. And I wonder how it feels to have a place that I, making an assumption, but is not so isolating in creation.
Well, for me, I love it because I'm a people person and I'm an artist. For some people, they're not necessarily people.
Right.
They don't love to be around people. So for me, it's really healthy. It's a really healthy environment to be in. The other studio artists that are out there, which are the studio artists, they're the ones that have a permanent place in the building to create. And
of which you are one, right?
Yes,
you said,
I'm one of those. And there are many of us, and it's such a beautiful community of people that are supporting each other. We lean on each other. They've been so kind to welcome me under their wings since I'm fairly new out there. I've worked out there for years. I've taught workshops out there for years. I've just never had a studio out there. I've always been at home. But now my kids are all grown. They're all adults. They've all graduated high school. They're all in college and in doing their lives. And so now it's time for me to kind of get out of the house and do something for me.
You've also referenced a couple times in this conversation some health struggles that you've experienced. Would you share about that and how perhaps you've used art through that?
Of course. So in June of 2024, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. Came out of the blue. It was, of course, highly shocking and incredibly devastating. I went through a lot of chemotherapy and surgeries and radiations, and now I'm on just different medicines to help me. But I had to really kind of pull back from doing pastel during all of that because I stand when I paint. I stand at my easel, and I physically could not. I was so fatigued and tired. I couldn't stand. And so I leaned on doing more watercolor and things that I could do up at even Harrington Cancer Center, which is where I went. They took great care of me. I would take my watercolors up there and paint during my chemotherapy sessions. I had 16 of those. And that was even fun because a lot of the nurses would say, we've never seen anybody paint during chemotherapy. They had seen people knit or do fiber crafts. But so I got to kind of put on my, I love to explain things. And I don't know a lot about watercolor. I use watercolor. I wouldn't call myself highly talented at it. Each medium needs its own study,
I'm
definitely.
Sure. Yeah, I'm sure.
So I kept my creative juices still alive during that time. And then after about a year, I went back to Patreon and I started teaching my classes again, doing live Zooms for my students and anybody who wanted to come.
Yeah.
But in the past couple months, I've felt kind of some latent effects of just incredible fatigue and just some things that are kind of the result of so much treatment that I'm really just needing to get healthy for myself and focus on healing and getting that vitality and that energy back in my day-to-day, because I've always been really productive. And so
that's clear.
And so I've just been this has been kind of growing in me. And so I actually announced last week to my students that I was going to step back. But of course, on my Patreon page, everything is still there. It's just an archive form. And so everybody can still go and join. They can watch many, many hundreds of lessons about painting the landscape mainly, just focusing on beauty of the world and even just taking a moment of their day to be creative. I think it's so important for people to spend time in creativity, even if there's so many people that say, oh, I don't know how many times I've heard, I can't draw a stick figure. That is so common. Well, you could if you kept trying. We do what we're interested in. And so it takes practice, but you can get better at what you want to do if you put the time in.
I'd like to hear about your thoughts on our landscape. I know that kind of your work generally is certainly kind of like nature driven. And we have a stark one here that people, positive or negative, like always have opinions about the landscape out here. And I'm interested in hearing yours.
Growing up, I mean, I definitely probably didn't appreciate it as much as I do now. You know, of course, born in Canyon, raised here, went to Randall High School, went to Texas Tech.
Double Raiders.
Double Raiders, that's right. And then moved away to Boston and lived in New England, which is one of the most beautiful places in the world. I mean, the forests, and you can go to the mountains, and you can go to the ocean, and there's the beautiful rock fences everywhere, and it's just so idyllic up there.
Boston's lovely.
And then, of course, moving back, and then it's, like you said, it's stark, but it is so open and vast that there's so much to see that I think people don't realize. If you focus, if you look, if you notice, we have so much beauty here that is just, people drive by it and they don't even notice. We have skies that would rival any sky in the world. I've been to Hawaii several times. We have friends that live out there. You're on the ocean and you see this beautiful sunset. They're just as beautiful here. We just might not have the reflection because we don't have the ocean underneath it, but it's the same. We're on an ocean of grass with this gorgeous sky all around us that we can see 360 degrees. It's mesmerizing. So whenever I paint, and my students probably would say that my cloudscapes and my skyscapes are probably the things that they're drawn to the most. But that's something that I've observed my entire life. I've seen the beautiful skies that we have. And of course, we have Paladura Canyon, which is just an absolute gem, the second largest canyon in the country, that is full of beauty and color. And people think, oh, it's just orange. It is not. It has so much color to it. And so there was a game that I used to play with my children whenever I would drive them around. And this is especially when I first started learning pastel. So when you have pastel, you have this huge array of these sticks of color, and it's like looking at candy. It's beautiful. And sometimes when you're staring at a blank page of a piece of paper, you're like, which one do I choose? I don't know which color to choose.
Sure.
And so teaching yourself to see color is really important. And so we would play a game to where we would be driving around, and I would tell them, look at that cloud. If you could pick a color out of the color wheel, what color would it be? And it is harder than you think. It's harder than you think it would. Our minds think apples are only red, clouds are only white, grass is only, of course, around here, yellow, water's only blue, right? But that is not the case. There is just a prismatic effect to all of those subject matters. And if you can train yourself to see it, you will appreciate it more.
What a lovely metaphor. Like actually quite a few of them, like the idea, I think that's one thing that people says. It's like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of nothing out here. And in fact, you offer that in the vastness, there's multitude.
There's absolutely, I mean, it's stunning. We live in a stunning landscape on this beautiful Llano Estacado land that is, we're so lucky we have these clear blue skies and these amazing, amazing lands. So, yeah, I love it.
And of course, the idea that if you choose to see something, you can be grateful for it.
That's right.
Is really.
That's right.
quite strong.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So you're kind of at a bit of a inflection point, it sounds like, and kind of some changes in what you've previously been doing, kind of through the lens of a very challenging journey. What are you working towards next?
I have so many dreams. I mean, I lay in bed at night because I can't sleep. I lay in bed at night and I think about all the things that I want to accomplish. And I'm actually, even though it's kind of an ending to this online teaching platform that I've had for 8 years, it's also a beginning. So as my sister texted me just the other day and said, endings equal beginnings. And that is so true. I released a new book last year, an ebook about the elements of art. I have quite a few books in mind that I would like to have the time to sit down and finish. A children's book, another book about more information about pastel, definitely. But then I'm teaching in France in May. I'm traveling to the south of France to teach a workshop there. And so that's really exciting.
Oh, that'll be lovely.
It's a plein air workshop. Of course, the plein air in the French countryside will be vastly different than the plein air of, Paladura Canyon or even the fields around our beautiful town.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about that. I've got exhibits coming up around the country and just, sometimes I travel to those and sometimes I don't. It just depends. I was in New York in September for an exhibit at the National Arts Club. I took my daughter. It was her first time to New York, so we had so much fun.
Oh.
And now that the kids are big, they're all grown. My middle son goes to school in Clemson in South Carolina. He's a physics major. And so we get to travel out to see him. And so just enjoying this time of our lives where I'm regaining my health.
Yeah.
We're not quite empty nesters yet. We still have kids living at home, but they're all grown. So we don't necessarily, they're on their own schedules, and my husband and I are on ours.
Yeah.
So I've got lots of things I'm excited to do.
Do you think that, I guess what I'm thinking about is that it's like what you said, you've always made hobbies jobs. Mm-hmm. Do you think there is a version of you that is not an artist?
No. No. I mean, I look at everything as an object of beauty. I mean, even when I make scrambled eggs, and if I crack the egg and I'm like, this shell, I had these blue eggs. I was like, this shell it's the most beautiful color of blue that I've ever seen. And that's not something I like to observe things and notice their beauty. And I love old things. I love heritage. I love history. That comes from my mother, definitely. She is a huge history buff. I look through the lens of most everything through art.
This episode is sponsored by the Amarillo Art Institute at Arts in the Sunset. If you haven't been, this place is an amazing center for Amarillo's vibrant art scene. They have monthly events, including the First Friday Art Walk, which showcases the artists they have in residence, and there are some incredibly talented people with all sorts of wares and mediums there. They also offer classes for children and adults in things such as glass blowing, weaving, and pottery. All of it really is just so cool. Check them out on Facebook. That's Arts in the Sunset. Okay, I'm back with Bethany Fields. Bethany, this is the part of the show I call 8 Straight. Ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okey-dokey. When you think of Amarillo 10 years from now, what do you hope for?
I hope for, I would love to see a really, really strong economy. I would love to see areas that are walkable. That's something from when I was in Boston, we would walk everywhere we went. I loved that about living there. And so I would love to have some development in the city that was walkable. Of course, we can go to Medi Park and we can walk around. We can go to the mall and walk around, but there's not a lot of walking areas.
Yeah.
They're trying to do that, of course, downtown near Hodgetown with the retail spaces around there. I would love to see those filled and brimming, and lots of just participation in the community from the community. Retaining a strong sense of the heritage, the pioneer heritage that we have, is those strong, even pragmatic wonderful characteristics of our community. Also, imagination. I would love to see some more imagination about what could this area be and how to accomplish that.
Other than wind, what does this area have too much of?
Well, I would say that if you think we have too much wind, you haven't spent time in Lubbock,
That's
Texas.
true. Yep.
I mean, it's way worse there.
It really is.
I think we have too many people driving through our city that don't stop and participate in the things. And I think that is something that, as Amarilloans, is that a word?
I think that's like the most accepted way to say that. I think it is Amarilloans.
Yes. As citizens of Amarillo, we have a lot to offer. There are so many cool things about our city that, people usually drive through it because they're going somewhere. So many people say, "Oh, I've gone through Amarillo." Yeah. It's on their way to somewhere else, but too many people are driving through. We need to have ways to reach them so they will stop and spend time in our wonderful community.
What do we not have enough of?
Voters.
Oh, God.
We need more voter turnout to do some of the things that we've been wanting to do. One of the things that is probably leads into maybe the next question, or maybe is one of the questions before. My middle son, who is at Clemson now, was a swimmer. And not until you're a swim parent do you know how hard it is for these kids to be able to do the things that they want to do. We're one of the only cities in the country that does not have an Olympic-sized swimming pool for our community. Going to Lubbock, they have amazing swim facilities. You go to Andrews or you go to Seminole, they have incredible swimming pools. And so we need voters to turn out to approve some of the things that have tried to get through. And I know that's not necessarily artsy, but that's being a mom. We need voter turnout.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And of course that natatorium failed on a bond 3 years ago.
I mean, it's so hard. I mean, they practice at the town club, which is a wonderful facility for them. Our kids, I have to say, they're great at turning because they have to turn so many times because the pool is small.
It's not big enough.
So it's harder. And, pool safety is so important. Lubbock, I think every kid through third grade, they have to go through pool safety training.
How interesting.
And all of Lubbock ISD. And so
Wow.
I think if Amarillo ISD put all of the kids through pool safety training, I think it's so important. I'm not a strong swimmer because we live in the Panhandle. There's not a lot of water. And so I think there's probably a lot of people that are like that, unless you're lucky enough to be able to go to the town club or Verdure, or you go to the local parks, there's not a lot of that activity, and it's so healthy for you.
It is. I was a swimmer. Did your son go to Amarillo High?
He went to Tascosa, and he went to regionals all 4 years that he was in. And so, it was really lucky those Panhandle boys, competing against the huge swim teams from Andrews, Seminole, we would go all Abilene, really travel far for swimming. It's a great sport. It was really fun. It was a fun period of being a mom.
Yeah.
My oldest played football. My middle one was a swimmer in orchestra, and then my daughter was also in orchestra. So
nice. Yeah, I swam for Seminole. That's where I grew up.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's amazing. The Andrews facility is incredible. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So
all of that to say vote.
Vote, and like I said, imagination. Let's move past just football.
Mm-hmm. What is your favorite local building?
This one is hard for me.
I'm sure it is because you see beauty.
I do. It depends on why do I like it? Is it because one of my favorite buildings is the home I grew up in because my grandfather built it, and my mother and my dad, they literally built it from the ground up when I was young. And so, but then also I love going to the Amarillo Little Theater. They're about to have their 100th year anniversary. And I just did ragtime up at the theater this last fall. Had been several years since I'd been in a show, but I've been in quite a few. And when I walk in there, there's such a sense of community.
Yeah.
I love the Art Institute. But then architecturally, I would say the Chamber of Commerce, Herring Hotel, would love to see somebody take that.
They're moving on it.
I think that would be, that's just a dream come true.
I think they just approved that in council.
That would be so exciting. And then, of course, the Harrington House. There's, lots of, Amarillo is beautiful. I do live in Wolflin. We have beautiful homes in our area. So anyway, we have lots of neat buildings.
I think so too. What's your favorite local restaurant?
El Teavon. definitely we go there all the time. When my son comes home from Clemson, that's the first place he wants to eat.
Which one? The one by Tesco's, I
Yes,
assume?
the one
Yeah.
by Tesco's.
Yeah,
So
it's
that's
very
closest
good.
to my house. We get the taco plate, great tacos with the, it's just delicious. So he when he went away to Clemson in South Carolina, they have Mexican food, but it's not like ours. And so he comes home and that's the first place he wants to go. And then before he goes back, that's the last place he wants to go.
That's great.
So we eat there quite a bit.
Yeah. How do you describe Amarillo to people outside of the area?
A lot of people don't know where it is. I mean, when we lived in Boston, people would say, I would say, I'm from Amarillo, Texas. And they'd say, oh, near Dallas. And I'd say, no, about 6 hours from Dallas. Oh, so no, closer to Houston. No, about, 12 hours from Houston. So they're like, where is this? I'm like, we're almost as close to Denver as we are to Dallas. So we're in a really unique area.
Yeah.
I mean, we have beautiful skies. We have clear air. We have really great weather. I mean, people complain about our weather. It's actually really nice. Other than like those couple months in the spring that are really not. It's beautiful. We have a beautiful area.
I completely agree
I mean,
with
in
the weather.
Palo Duro, that's more of a canyon. I kind of think of Palo Duro more of as a canyon. I'm a canyon girl, so
I was going to say that's a hyper canyonite perspective.
Yeah, I am.
I
was born at Palo Duro Hospital, which is no longer there. But,
cool.
Yeah.
Is that in Canyon?
Yeah, it was in Canyon.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yep. So.
When was the last time you went to Palo Duro Canyon?
I went last year for my anniversary, which it's been several months, but like I said, I've been in cancer treatment, and so it's kind of harder to get out there. I love going out there. I've been out there hundreds of times, being in Texas. I was the lead in Texas, actually.
You were
I was Elsie McLean. I know, it was so...
What
Calvin
years?
Armstrong, 94, 95, 96.
Oh, my
I was
gosh.
Elsie 96. So it was wonderful. It was so much fun.
That's so fun. I love
And so
Texas.
I've driven that road out to Palo Duro.
Countless.
I mean, I don't even know how many times. And, going wildly in college down that hill, which was probably very unsafe. Don't tell my mom.
Right.
It's part of me, I feel.
Right.
And now I paint it. And so, I go out there. I grew up there. We would go out there for field trips when I was a little girl. I mean, it's just, it's so special.
Yeah.
It's a really special place.
Okay, so if you have 4 hours to spend in Amarillo with someone who's never been here, what are you doing?
Well, I've had quite a few people come and visit that have never been here. And so usually what we do is I take them on a walk around my neighborhood because I'm very proud. I love Wolfland. It's beautiful, the brick streets. And I love pointing out the historical building, the houses that are there that have been there for, long time.
Yeah.
And then I would probably say, well, let's take a walk around the block and we'll walk down to Oldham Circle and it'll be beautiful. And then let's go down to 6th Street and we'll go to the Nat and we'll walk around the Nat and we're going to talk about the history of that building too, because I love all of the stories of the Nat.
Swimming.
Yes.
Hello.
So,
perfect.
And, just the stage and, all of the bands that used to perform there. And then we probably go eat at the Golden Light or at El Teavon.
Yes.
Of course, I would say we would go to Palo Duro Canyon, but I think that would be more like a day-long visit.
Right,
and so that would be if they come back through and stay longer. I would take them to Palo Duro.
Appreciate the thoughtfulness.
Yes.
What do you think people get wrong about Amarillo?
I think that they think that it's not pretty. I mean, we do, one of my other answers for what do we have too much of would be snarky, would be metal buildings. We have too many metal storage buildings. We need to, stop that. But people just think it's flat and dirty and ugly. And I just don't agree. I think you have to get out of your comfort zone. And, there's so many people that say, there's nothing to do here. There's so much to do in Amarillo. We have, like I said, all of these things that I've mentioned. We have, go to the symphony. The symphony building is beautiful and they're wonderful. Go to the Little Theater. There is always a show going on. Go to the Art Institute. There's always somebody there. You can participate in an activity. Go to Palo Duro. There's a lot to do, and people don't take advantage of it, I don't think.
Mm-hmm. That concludes 8 Straight. I like to end by asking my guests to endorse something. What would you endorse to listeners?
Well, it's the theme of today. It's the arts. It's the arts in Amarillo. It's the Art Institute. I would endorse it highly. It's the Amarillo Little Theater. Go and see a show. Go to the symphony. Go to the Amarillo Museum of Art. Go to Palo Duro Canyon. I mean, it's all, it's this rich heritage of creativity. Think of the pioneers and how creative they had to have been to have survived here. And going back to the first question you said or asked me was about, was it my grandparents? My grandparents, my grandfather was a prisoner of war, and he came home after being a prisoner of war, and he had so much creativity. He was always having us work with our hands, and he worked at the helium plant, and he did all of these things. And I'm a 7th generation Texan. Participating in creativity, I think, is the pioneer spirit, because you had to be creative to survive here, honestly.
That's really lovely. Bethany, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Skylar, for having me. I really had fun.
I'm glad. Me too. The Globe News Center turns 20 this January, and the Amarillo Symphony is celebrating in style. The evening opens with a world premiere fanfare from Grammy-winning composer Gavin Higgins, and then Grammy-winning guitarist Gigi joins the orchestra for Rodrigo's fiery Concerto de Aranjuez, plus Bruckner's powerful Symphony No. 7. It's January 16th and 17th at 7:30. Visit AmarilloSymphony.org for tickets. That concludes the episode. Thanks to Bethany for the interview, to Ingenic Dental Studio and the Amarillo Art Institute, as well as the Amarillo Symphony for supporting the podcast, and to Broderick Adams for editing every week. And thank you for listening. This has been episode 432 of Hey Amarillo. I am Skylar Gallup, and we hope you'll listen again next week.